So the other day I overheard this conversation, and it was somebody asking this little kid what they wanted to be when they grow up. And the little kid responded, "I want to be rich." I mean, like, more power to you, buddy, which is like hilarious, but it kind of got me started thinking about what it means to be wealthy. And I think that definition is kind of hard to wrap your head around, because it's always been, like in movies, for instance, we always see, somebody with a lavish mansion and buying all these name brand everything, clothing and handbags and shoes and whatever, going on crazy vacations or whatever it is. But I don't think that's actually what it means to be wealthy. Like, how much is enough? What are my goals? What am I aiming for? I decided to put these into levels. So 10 different levels of financial independence. I'm Melissa Ford. Welcome to Damsel of Success, where we talk about all things money. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video. That happens every single Wednesday. So I've mentioned before in a couple of my videos that I am on the path to FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And this isn't something that just happens overnight. It's something that, it takes several years to achieve. According to my plans, I'm on about a 7-year timeline, give or take, depending on circumstances that happen in life. And I'm about 2 years into that. So I've got quite a ways to go. And it's, like I said, kind of a long journey. And so I wanted to break it down a little bit to help me and to hopefully help you if you're on this path, or if you're just kind of looking for a way to decide, like, how much is enough? What are my goals? What am I aiming for? I decided to put these into levels. So 10 different levels of financial independence, where you can kind of decide for yourself where it is that you're trying to aim for. So if you're anything like me and you don't have an absolutely perfect photographic memory, then no worries. I put together a cheat sheet with all 10 of these levels called the Wealth Ladder, and I will put a link to that down in the description below. You can get it off my website. It's completely free. Just head over there and download it. So let's dive right in. The first level that you're going to be at is level 0, which I like to call the trophy wife stage. And you can consider yourself in this stage if somebody else is funding your lifestyle or you are still accumulating consumer debt. If either of those applies to you, then you're at stage 0. And I like to call this the trophy wife stage because it means that you're dependent on something else. You're either dependent on somebody else for your financial well-being, or you're dependent on debt, accumulating consumer debt in order to fund your lifestyle. So to me, that means that you start out at trophy wife level.
Hi everybody, just popping in here to clarify. As I'm watching through this video again, I wanted to make sure it was clear that if you are a stay-at-home parent, that is not classified as being dependent on someone else's income. We all know how hard stay-at-home parents work, so please don't define yourself in that way if you're a stay-at-home parent.
So the next level, level 1, is the worker bee level. And I consider you to have reached this level if your income covers all of your expenses and you have stopped accumulating new consumer debt. And what do I mean by consumer debt? Consumer debt you can kind of think about as anything but your loans, possibly healthcare expenses that you've accrued, and your mortgage. So things like credit cards, car loans, those kinds of things that you've taken out, that's considered consumer debt. And to be at worker bee level, then you have to have stopped accumulating new consumer debt. Next up is level 2, which I call the vixen level. So in order to reach vixen level, you have to have done 3 things. Number 1 is that you have to have saved up $1,000 in an emergency fund. Number 2 is that if you have a 401k plan at work, you are contributing enough to get the employer match, the full employer match. And the third thing that you have to do to reach vixen level is to pay more than the minimum balance on all of your consumer debt. So if if your credit card bills add up to $100 a month, you're paying $101 or more to pay down that debt. Next up is level number 3, which I like to call the boss bee level. There are also 3 criteria that you have to meet to get to this level. The first one is that your emergency savings has grown to cover at least 1 entire month of your expenses. The second is that you are maxing out your Roth IRA contribution. So in addition to everything that you've done in level 2, which is to contribute to your 401k up to the employer match, you are also contributing the max to your Roth IRA. And the third thing is that you've paid off all your credit cards. Now, I'm not lumping all of the consumer debt into this level, just the credit cards. So if you have credit cards, those are paid off. So before we go into the next level, I just want to tell you that I am a big fan of music that'll pump me up and motivate me and inspire me. And so when you download this cheat sheet, every single level is going to come with a link to a song that is related to that level. So for instance, on the last level, level 3, which is Boss B, I have associated that level with Just Like Fire from Pink. And if you download this little cheat sheet, it'll tell you what song comes with every level. And I also have a playlist that you can play to, get your groove on a little bit with those. Do you have any songs that you like to play that get you pumped up and motivated to, kill it? Let me know. Put it in the comments below. I'm always on the lookout for new, good, pump me up motivational songs. So let me know what your favorites are. So we are on to level 4, which I call the lioness level. And there are 3 things that you have to have done before you can call yourself a lioness. The first is that you've funded your emergency savings account to cover 3 full months of your expenses. The second thing is that you've maxed out your 401k contribution, not just up to the employer match, but completely maxed out. You're putting in as much as you are legally allowed to put in to that retirement account. And the third thing that you have to do to be considered a lioness is to have your car paid in full. So if you have a vehicle, you are no longer paying a monthly car payment. That vehicle is just totally paid off. Level number 5 is the heroine level. So you are the hero or heroine of your own story. In order to reach this level, you have to have 6 months of your expenses put away in a savings account. You've also started contributing to taxable investments, such as real estate or a traditional brokerage account, because you've already maxed out your 401k, you've already maxed out your Roth IRA, so you're moving on up. And finally, you've managed to pay off all of your student loan debt. So if you have it, it's gone. You no longer have that monthly bill hanging over your head. On to level 6, which is the savage level. You get to call yourself a savage if you've done 3 things. The first is that you have FU money. Now, if you haven't heard the term FU money before, a lot of people have a different definition for what FU money means, but to me, it's basically a term that means that if you were to have some sort of a conflict at work that was not going in your favor, you wouldn't be in a position where you had to stay in a job that you hated or that you were being treated poorly in. You would have the option, you would have the choice saying, F you, and going off and taking some time off to find another job, or just taking some time off because you would have had a year's worth of expenses saved. So the second thing that you need to do to be a savage is to have paid off your mortgage on your home, which is a big thing. That's a big deal. I am not quite there yet. I'm working towards it, but I'm not quite there. But that is one criteria that you have to do to reach level 6 of being a savage. And the third thing that you have to do is to get to a point where your investments are starting to pay you back. So what does that mean? That means that if you have a real estate property, that you're making positive cash flow on that real estate property, or if you're investing in brokerage accounts, such as like a dividend investing, those dividends are starting to pay off and pay you. They're putting money into your pocket. This next level is probably where people start to say that they consider themselves financially independent. And what that means is that you've reached a level of financial independence that a lot of people call lean financial independence. And the criteria for that is basically that work is optional for you. So your investments are paying you enough to cover all of your expenses. You don't have to work if you don't want to work. You might choose to still work, but it's completely optional. And the reason it's called lean fi is that this is a level where you're just kind of barely covering your expenses, but you don't have a lot of room for extras like, a lot of traveling or, expensive hobbies or extravagant gifts, anything like that. There's not a lot of room for luxury, but you don't have to work a day job if you don't want to. So the next level is level 8, which I have titled the Empress level. And what has happened at the Empress level is that your investments have started to pay off enough to cover your current standard of living. So it's not just your expenses, it's not like you're barely scraping by, but it's what you're used to right now. Like if your job went away, nothing about your life would really change from an income perspective. So that's what it means for me, how I define reaching the Empress level. It's also probably what most people who are pursuing FIRE would say, that you've absolutely achieved FI, financial independence, once you get to this level. So we're on to our very last level, level 9. And if you've been keeping track, we started at level 0, so there are 10 levels to this, but our last one is actually level 9. And that level is Goddess. In the FIRE community, people would probably call this Fat Fi, which essentially means that your investments are paying you so much that you can increase your standard of living. So it's not just covering the way you live today, but it's covering more. It's covering more extravagant things. I'm really happy where my life is right now, but man, that'd be fun. I'd like to go on a couple extra vacations every year, right? So those are my 10 levels of financial independence. Like I said, just as a reminder, I'll link that cheat sheet in the description below. But I hope that this has kind of helped you kind of define where you're at and where you could aspire to be. Getting to the point of financial independence, if that's your goal, is kind of a long road. And so I really like the idea of breaking it up into little steps so that you know it's not just you're at FI or not at FI, but you're making progress along the way. So hopefully this little system will help you to do that. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. Hitting that like button helps me get a little bit more exposure and helps me continue to put out these videos every week. So I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button. And if you loved the video, then subscribe. By all means, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video. That happens every single Wednesday. And I would love to have you along for the ride. That's all for now. See you soon.